What's up for Jesse? Okay, dude, this is gonna be awesome. Let's go inside. Money Talks' first ever collaborative on the street, in the car. I'm very lucky to not have to work again.
The Tokyo date. You put online, I want to take someone to Tokyo for 3 days, all expenses paid. People were following this like Bachelor or something.
20 million impressions or more. But if you watch a podcast like this, if you listen to a podcast like this, you probably want a better life for yourself.
Money talks, let's keep it real. This is interesting. I gotta focus on driving.
Oh yeah, shoot,
and
sorry.
think of questions.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so Money Talks. Usually I bring people, we sit in the studio, we talk about money. Today we're on the go. This is Nick Gray. So you have like an eclectic, crazy career in life, which I love. So let's start with your book. It's called The 2 Hour Cocktail.
Yes.
We met like 4 days ago because you were hosting this crazy event in Victoria with Andrew Wilkinson. I want to know the secrets because everyone wants to host events, meet people.
Secrets to hosting an event are as follows. Number one, you got to have structure. I think what people don't like is a lot of surprises. And if you can give structure to people, especially structure at the beginning, then that will help them to meet more people. And you got to remember that in my mind, my style of events is that the purpose is to help people meet and mix and mingle with other people. And so you probably saw that first night, second day, third day.
Yeah, we walk in, I got a name tag, it said Jesse 2A. Everybody had a letter and a number, and then you said all the number 2s go in that corner. And it just makes it easy, like these little groups, instead of like walking awkwardly and there's like 40 people you don't know.
It's like herding cats. That's my goal, is just to get people mixing and mingling.
Yeah.
And so
break
that's
ties.
my goal. So name tags. Name tags is number one.
Name tags number one.
The thing that my book speaks about is my formula, the Nick formula, N-I-C-K, that's my name.
That's convenient.
And the N stands for name tags. The I stands for intros or icebreakers. The C stands for cocktails only, and the K stands for kick them out at the end. Party's only 2 hours long. That's on my book. My book is called The 2 Hour Cocktail Party.
So why no dinner?
I think that dinner parties are quite complicated. And did you notice at the one that you came to on that opening night, we were all standing, we're mixing, we're mingling. When you sit down, then you're locked in. It's much harder to meet people. Also, from a hosting perspective, most people's number one fear for hosting, guess what their number one fear is? If you've never hosted before.
That no one comes.
That no one comes, right? And a dinner party is a big commitment. It's a lot to say yes to. And if you just host a cocktail party, somebody's like, oh, perfect, I can just pop in, I'll just show up. And so that's why cocktails or mocktails only, no dinner, because dinner is also stressful for the host.
How do you make sure people come?
I use a tiered event invitation system. So I do the double opt-in intro, which I will ask people. I'll say, hey, Jesse, I'm thinking of hosting a party on Thursday night next week. Can I send you the info? And hopefully you'll say yes, and then I'll send you the info. The mistake most people make is they just blast. They just spray and pray this invite to everybody, and they don't ask, the double opt-in. And then I collect RSVPs using a platform like Partyful or Mixly or Paperless Post. Do not use Eventbrite. Please do not use Eventbrite. I don't like Eventbrite. And then I send a series of 3 reminder messages to make sure that people show up. 3 reminder messages, very, very important.
First of all, how many people you think is ideal for like the type of event you're talking about?
It's a very good question. 15 to 22. 15 to 22 is the ideal sort of sweet spot.
Specific.
Is very specific. And the no-show rate is like less than 10%. When you do this double opt-in, when you send the reminder messages, when you use this secret weapon I have called guest bios, that really helps to boost it up to be much, much higher attendance. Because most people, free event, free gathering, it's like 50% no-show. And that's a real bummer for a lot of hosts.
Right. The bio thing, explain that.
The guest bios is little blurbs. Remember how at this event that we went to, we got the bio books?
Yep.
You do a lighter weight version of that for your gathering, where you just include social links or something, a little sentence about somebody. And that helps to boost attendance, get people excited, empower your introverts to get them excited to come and know what to talk about.
Okay, so you wrote this book. A cocktail party is a really interesting topic. How'd you like find that topic and you're like, I'm gonna write a book about this, I'm gonna be the guy for this?
So 6 years ago, I had a company, it was called Museum Hack, and I was doing some speaking, and people told me, look, as a speaker, you can charge more, you're more well respected, all this other stuff, if you have a book. And it's a reputation management type thing that you just want to get a book to have a better reputation and more authority. So I knew I wanted to write a book. I didn't know what about. And it just so happens that I've hosted hundreds, if not thousands, of parties, happy hours, gatherings. Because when I moved to New York, I didn't know a lot of people. And so I started to host these events. That's another story. But I'd hosted hundreds. I'd taught my friends how to do it. And that was the one thing where I was like, I think I know a little bit about this. I can talk about that.
I like how it's strategic. You're like, I want to speak. I want to be respected as a speaker.
Yeah.
Do you get paid for speaking?
I did get paid. I was getting paid. The most I ever got paid at the time was like $7,000 or $8,000 to speak.
Wow.
There's a great coffee shop over there, I think. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
What's the name of that place?
Shout out Boulevard, Venice Beach.
Shout out Boulevard. Boulevard.
Some coffee.
Get some coffee over there. I got to fly to Australia speaking. I got to go to Switzerland to speak. I got to travel all around the world because my last company worked with museums. And so I was on the speaking circuit for a little bit there.
Yeah, let's get into Museum Hack stuff. What did the company do and how'd you build it?
Museum Hack did renegade museum tours, which is so weird, but we would do non-traditional museum tours. Like, that means I would lead the tour and I don't work for the museum. And I would show my friends around this museum, like here in LA, where we are now, like the Getty. And I'd run them around and show them the juicy gossip and all the backstories that I would learn by reading things on Wikipedia and watching YouTube videos and weird books. And then I started to grow the company and I hired stand-up comedians and Broadway actors to lead the tour. We first made money selling our tours to tourists. We'd sell a $59 museum tour, pay $23 admission. The difference is how much we would make. We'd pay our tour guides and we'd pay for marketing, but we still made a little bit of money.
And the museums are okay with third parties coming in and profiting?
Some museums are okay with it. Only a few museums are okay with it. Those museums that really have a lot of visitors, that have foreign language guides or college classes, that's the loophole of how we'd get in. Eventually, where we made a lot of money was by selling those same tours that were $59 to businesses for like a team building experience. And then those tours we charge $179 for.
Oh, wow.
So we charge a lot more because it's like a corporate event.
Can you say how big you got the company or how many tours you sold or how many tickets you sold?
Yeah, we sold thousands and thousands of tours and tickets. The biggest top line revenue sales that I ever got it to was $2.8 million. Maybe 3, but I think 2.8 is the number that I remember. And I could never grow it above that. I tried doing everything, hiring sales directors, marketing stuff. I could never really reach above that ceiling for some reason or another.
What's like a profit on that? When you say you sell 2.8 million of museum tour tickets, like what can you make profit on that?
I'm trying to do the math in my head. So let's say maybe we'd make like $400,000 a year, whatever that margin is. I'm guessing that's 4, 8, 28. I'm not good with math, but it's not as good as software and is a very messy, complicated business.
You said you hired people for all the tours. So how many hours a week were you actually working running that kind of business?
I was pretty full-time. I mean, I was hardcore on it. There was a lot of sales, marketing, management. Eventually, though, I hired a CEO and a marketing director, and they ended up really running the business for me. And so I kind of checked out the last year or two. It was not my first business, my first startup, so I knew about the idea of delegate and elevate.
So you exited the business.
Yeah, I sold the business in 2019.
Every entrepreneur's dream. What can you say about the exit? How did it go down? How much did you get? Or whatever you want to share.
I sold the business to, in a weird way, it was a seller finance transaction. That means that the buyers didn't put any money down. They're just going to pay me out from the profits. We came up with a multiple based on the profits of the business. It was more than $1 million, less than $5 million. We thought it would take like 5 years to pay back, or many, many years we thought it would take to pay back. And actually, they did some amazing things with the company to grow it, that they ended up paying it back in about 3 years. And it was successful for everybody involved, thanks to a lot of their hard work. But I got a good deal, they got a good deal, and the business is in good hands.
That's great. That's a cool. I feel like, what's always publicized with exits is like, some tech guy sells his business for $400 million and that's all you hear about. I think it's cool. You built a real business that was, a few $1,000,000 a year and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you structured it so someone else got a great deal too because they put in $0 and inherited your business.
Yes.
And then you got to just make money and not work anymore.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It turned out cool. A lot of people like poo-poo these lifestyle business things, so-called. But the reality is that it ended up being a life-changing moment for me and for the people who bought the company. We never had any venture capital. We never had any investors. It was it was an amazing experience. It was nice. More people should think about that instead of raising money.
Yeah. Okay, so post exiting that, you're speaking, you got the book, you got a few $1,000,000. How do you handle money once you kind of get a few million? Like, how are you thinking? Are you like, okay, I need to like preserve this, and like, are you investing now?
Here's one thing that I can say that I haven't spoken about or I haven't heard other people kind of talk about, but that is the difference in confidence that I felt once I had a few $1,000,000 in the bank. I definitely felt more confident. Like once I had a successful exit, once I had kind of reached some numbers. How do I think about money? I try to keep my burn low. I really don't spend that much money at all. I ran my business through Starwood credit card, and I got millions of Marriott points. So I stayed at a Marriott hotel. That's where I was tonight, because I still get free nights from running all my credit card expenses through there. I keep my burn low. I don't spend a lot of money. And so it still gives me that sense of confidence that the number's not going down. I do a little bit of investing, but I think like Vanguard index funds and stuff it's the best thing for most people.
So you're like, you park the money in something like that, make the conservative return, live off that,
Yes.
live pretty cheap. After an exit like that, you think you can just now do what you want for the rest of your life, basically?
Yes, until I get married and have a bunch of kids, which is what I'm interested in next. But I have been able to, with the lifestyle I have now, I'm very lucky to not have to work again.
That's really cool. Now you're making content.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier a little, how like you don't have a monetary goal or a business goal with the content. It's just like open up the surface of luck, optimize for serendipity. I think that's something that more people should learn from and mimic. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, I think you phrased it better than I ever could have, which is like open up the surface of luck, optimize for serendipity. Yeah, I make a lot of content now and I share it out online just for fun. I think becoming a better communicator is something I'm interested in. I want to get better at being a better communicator. And so I share reels and I write some text articles and I use it to meet people like you, to go to conferences like the one we met at, to try to meet more truly interesting people and raise my own profile. I think if you're not sharing online now, it is a strategic choice that you have made not to share. But if you watch a podcast like this, if you listen to a podcast like this, you probably want a better life for yourself, and sharing online just adds your surface area.
I think one thing people struggle with, including myself, is what do I make content about? And it's like, you feel this sort of imposter thing, especially around like money or business. It's like, who am I to talk about money? But like, people find really creative ways to like turn their life into great content.
I remember when I first got started with my videos, I think I was so cringe at making the videos. And that's just part of it. You just have to embrace the cringe, be willing to try some experiments.
The Tokyo date. So you put online like, I want to take someone to Tokyo for 3 days, all expenses paid. And you had how many applications?
I had over 400 applications to go on this blind date with me in Tokyo. It was absolutely insane.
You made content for the whole thing, right?
Basically, I would just write these little diary entries, and that's what got people hooked on Twitter mostly.
And you got like millions of impressions on Twitter. Like people were following this like...
It was insane. It was insane.
Like The Bachelor or something.
Yeah, like it was like The Bachelor on Twitter. Every single day they were signing in, seeing what was going on. 20 million impressions or more. It's funny because I've done all this business stuff and my book and other things, and I go out and people are like, oh, you're that blind date guy. Probably the most viral clip I ever made had like 40 million combined views, and it was of when I went to this water park and there was nobody else there. And so it was a video that was like, I got this water park all to myself for only $50. What's happening?
So something like that, did that lead to anything interesting, like directly?
It did lead to some fascinating stuff. I think it doubled my follower count on Instagram. And as much as people say that that stuff doesn't matter, it does matter. I got invited to go back to the water park. I got invited to like some VIP stuff. When you go viral, it's almost like a turbo birthday. And what do I mean by that? It means that your phone is just blowing up. Like whenever you load the app, you have all these notifications, comments, likes, new followers, new ads, like text messages from people. It's crazy how much my phone blew up at that time. It was just a moment in time, by the way. You get that hit of going viral, then you want it again.
I mean, I did like the NFT stuff like a couple years ago. And that just went crazy. After like a couple months, it's like that's all anyone like talks to you about, and you're just like, I don't really care about this that much. Like this is just like a tiny little speck of what I think about, you know? And then it's like all you got to talk about for so long.
It's like, I guess this is my life.
You didn't care about anything else before that I actually worked on or care about, and then all of a sudden.
Someone told me that when you find a clip that goes viral, like my water park video, that you have to double down on it, and that's the type of content that you have to start to make until it stops working. And so they were like, bro, you gotta go to Six Flags now, you gotta go to the movie theater now, you gotta go to all these places, museums, go to all these places that are dead empty when you're the first one to get there, and make that type of content.
Because like the algorithm will show your new videos to everyone who watched that and liked it.
For me, that has been hard to narrow down my content into one area. I still talk about whatever I want to talk about. It probably hurts my channel, but that's what keeps it sustainable for me.
What's interesting too about the Tokyo thing is like all you did was just be extremely like personal and transparent, right?
Yeah,
and that's what people love.
We have parked the car so that we can go in and hang out, right?
So you have like this superpower of understanding what works when trying to meet people, network.
I think you should not host a party on the weekend. Instead, you should host on a Tuesday or Wednesday. The reason is that Friday, Saturday, Sundays are socially competitive nights. Even Thursday too, socially competitive. What does that mean? It means you're gonna have less likely people to say yes, that they're available, or you're more likely to get bumped. The number one metric that you want to optimize for is number of people who come to your party, and that's why Tuesday, Wednesday nights are really good.
I've never truly hosted like on a networking event or like a specific event based around something and you know, really reached out into my network and invited people. I think it's a bit of like a fear of planning, or not a fear, but just like bad at planning. Then I got to worry about all these people coming. Are they going to connect? Are they going to like each other? If I'm catching up with a friend, I don't like inviting a lot of people from different parts of my life, because then I feel like the whole time I'm just like, hey, you might have this in common, and you. So how do you kind of like avoid all that?
I think number one, what you're talking about is you don't like mixing the buckets. Oh, these friends from this, these friends from this. Maybe they're not going to get along. Maybe I won't know what's up. I actually think it's good to mix the buckets, and people like to meet new people. That's your role as the host, is to introduce others. Your real fear though is that you think it's too much work, right? It's too much work to plan, to invite, to host, to do all this. And it's why I wrote my book called The 2-Hour Cocktail Party, that just teaches people the easiest way for a gathering. But I want to ask some questions just because I want to know more about the lessons that you've learned in hosting the podcast. As you talk about money advice and money in general, what tends to be some things that either surprise you or your listeners?
What's interesting, a lot of people in entertainment, especially in LA, are more famous than rich. And we talked about this on a couple podcasts. There's a lot of people in the world, they might have $1 billion and you've never heard of them, you've never heard of their business. And then LA is the opposite, where it's like, I'm generalizing with LA, but influencers, content creators, artists, flashier business people, like a lot of them aren't that rich at all.
Right.
They might be broke actually.
Right.
And it's like, you might have heard of them, you might have heard their music, you might have, seen their content, and you just assume like, oh, they're familiar to me, they've made it.
Right.
And like many of them have not. It's not always the loudest that's the most successful,
They're incredibly wealthy with social capital, but with financial capital, they don't have as much money.
You see the transaction where it's like, how many of these really successful business guys achieved their financial goal, and it's like, what's next? And I think people are realizing, like you're saying, the value of like an audience, a community, and they're all trying to be like, creators now.
Yeah.
But all the creators are not rich, and they're trying to figure out how to make money. And there's this funny exchange that goes on. You know, that's interesting. I think just like seeing people have success in boring businesses.
Yeah.
We had the car wash guy, Chris, come on talk about car washes. That was one episode. That's just something in years past I would have never thought was cool. Then you're hearing like, oh, you buy car washes, they cash flow, eliminates your tax bill. A lot of cool financial loopholes and things you can do with different business models.
Dude, that's been actually one thing that I do spend money on that brings me great joy, and that is one-way plane tickets, last-minute plane tickets.
I do that too.
I do that all the, dude, that's the way, right? Can you speak about that or how you do it or just thoughts on it?
Well, I think the biggest mistake people make is being too rigid. You say to me, hey, I'm gonna be in LA, let's hang out or film something or whatever. And I'm like, oh, sorry, I was only going back Monday. Why don't I just change that, you know? The downside is I spend $200 to change my ticket or I book a new one, whatever. And the upside is like we create the best piece of content ever, or we have the best conversation, or we become friends, you know? It's the long tails of things that give you the best results.
One thing I do, I really schedule very few meetings. I'll send people my phone number. I'll say, hey, just give me a call whenever, you know, you might have to call me a few times, but let's connect. I really want to. I find that that also rules out people who aren't serious about connecting. And so I really don't let Zoom calls and other random stuff get on my calendar. That's a luxury. Of course, I'm going to do it if like the CEO of Google or something wants to call, of course. But for most people, I'm like, no, let's just link up. If we link, we link.
What things do you spend money on that are like really worth it?
I recently made the switch to have my housekeeper come from once a week to twice a week.
Okay.
That for me, it's a little small thing. At the time, I couldn't think about it and really fathom it. It has been such a luxury that I love so much. And it didn't even cost that much more.
2 different people at the conference told me that too.
What'd they say?
Like I said, what do you think is worth it? You know, because people say, you know what, yachts aren't worth it, nice cars aren't worth it, all these things aren't worth it. What is worth it? And the housekeeper, having someone clean your house a lot is worth it. From a lot of people say that, so.
This is so funny, but it's true. I've been working on fitness stuff for many years. I was finally seeing a lot of progress, changed my diet up. I think the next step for me, I've kind of reached a plateau, is to get a trainer. And I've worked with a trainer before, I've done a trainer, but now I'm gonna do it right. So I'm excited to spend money on that. I think next level is like to get a chef. It's not actually that expensive. I mostly worry when I spend money about wasting money. And oftentimes I think about that for a chef, like, damn, I'm gonna waste all this money if I'm out, if I still wanna go out with you for dinner. Oh, but I got this food at home from the chef.
Yeah, it's like the commitment. And I kind of feel the same way about having an assistant, which I'm trying to fix now. Do you have an assistant or?
I do. I have a couple executive assistants that work for me. They're all remote, but there's so much publishing that I do and admin stuff that it's just very helpful for me. For some people, I think it would be more hassle than it's worth. But you saw my videos. I'm pretty proud of my videos. I think we're doing a great job on the videos.
Yeah.
All those videos get shared on so many different channels, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or LinkedIn. We just had a LinkedIn video pop off.
LinkedIn is the place,
right?
I gotta get on that.
Now people are talking about LinkedIn. I just had a LinkedIn video pop off and get 50,000 views, which for me is huge.
Wow.
There's no way I could have managed that by myself. Yeah, just trying to stay consistent. We've posted so many things out there. I keep my blog, I have my newsletter. I really, as I think about it now, I think that I am really trying to be a better communicator. Now that I've made my number, I wanna be able to share stories about my friends and businesses and causes that I support. And so learning how to tell those stories in a better way is important to me.
So you make a lot of travel content too. What are like the travel hacks?
Okay, so Southwest Airlines, you know the thing, right? Where you can pay like $20, $30 day of to boost up your boarding time. You don't have to buy the real expensive ticket. You can just pay a little bit more.
Okay.
So that's the Southwest hack. I travel with a lot of gadgets and gizmos. One of my favorite is a USB-A to a USB-C adapter. It's a small little plug that will let you use your USB-C cables to charge on the plane or in hotels that really only have the old style USB port. I travel with a foldable water bottle, so I always have a water bottle on me. It just folds, it rolls up into a really small size.
You had one reel about like spending $200 to go to Japan or something. Like
yes. I use this low-cost airline called Zip Air. For jet lag, if you're going to Europe, if you're going to Asia, you really need to strategize your jet lag. And there's an app called Time Shifter that is very good at helping you adjust to jet lag. And you need to have a jet lag strategy days before you leave. You need to start adjusting your internal circadian rhythm days before you go on a big trip, and it will save you at least a full day of being just destroyed when you get there. I will not do a big trip without working on my like circadian rhythm the days before.
What about booking stuff? Any like great sites, finding deals, point stuff?
The biggest advice I could have for the average listener is that you need to be working your credit card miles and doing the miles hustle. There's a service I pay for this, it's not sponsored, called milemethod.com, and Mile Method helps me sign up for like 2 or 3 new credit cards per quarter.
I'm gonna check that out.
So I'm getting massive bonuses, and that allows me to book these last minute tickets, business class flights, things like that.
Yeah, I think one thing people don't do, they just go, I have points, so it's free.
No.
So like, I have points, I'm gonna use it. Like, I have millions of points, and I still pay out of pocket for a lot of stuff if the ratio's not good.
Yes.
You can also transfer Amex points into other point systems.
Yes.
And you get like...
You gotta be smart about points.
gotta get
I saw
value
someone
out
who
of it.
spent 800,000 points for this business class ticket. I was like, bro, 800,000? That's like such a waste of your points and your tickets. You could buy the plane, that's crazy.
That's like worth 20 grand. That was an interesting episode. We got hacks, we got how to meet people, network, make money. What someone who's exited a company with a few $1 million does with their time and money. Where can people find you?
Check me out online. I'm Nick Gray News. That's NickGrayNews. And I have a website, and we'll link to it in the show notes, www.nickgray.net, N-E-T. I post a lot on my Instagram, and I have a friend's newsletter that I'm really proud of, so you gotta check that out. I share my best books and magazines and Spotify songs and fun photos.
What's one action you think more people need to take?
I think number one is that you should try hosting a party. Host a easy, low-cost happy hour to see your acquaintances, and think about building your network by adding value. Mix your different friend buckets up. And then number two, if you're interested in having a lifestyle of freedom and flexibility, you could do the credit card hustle. It takes about 2 hours every quarter to sign up for the new cards and set up your bank accounts, but it's changed the way that I travel, and it's really given me a more free life, I think.
Yeah, I need to do both those things, so I learned a lot. It's great. All right, thanks for coming.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, I ain't really gotta flex. Been putting work in, so you know what to expect.